Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Previous Shortcuts. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. If you can see me, if you can hear me clearly, please type a yes in the comment section. If you can see me and if you can hear me clearly, yes, I am back. I am back on YouTube as I always do. Every time I come on here, you know I always have a lot of good nuggets for you today. So if you're joining us today, please just type in the comments, say hello, say hi. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling, how your day has been. And I'm so excited. I'm really excited. As always, because today I just have some amazing, I'm going to share with you a secret, a tool, a technique that I've always used to do so well in clinical questions. Because I think this is going to make a massive difference for majority of you. So let's give a special shout out to some of you that are just joining us. Hassan Hussein, how are you? Jason first. Great to have you on, Jason. George, how are you? Joanne is in the house tonight. We've got Emma. How are you, Emma? Mana, how are you? Silky, it's been a while. It's been a long time. My exam is in November. It's 9 months enough. Of course, it is more than enough. I know so many trainees that have passed exam within 3 months. They've just had 3 months to study, to do all the work, and have passed the exam. So the question is not really how much time you have. The question is what you do with your time. Right? So it's not about having, is it 6 months enough? Is 9 months enough? Is 1 year enough? Is 2 years enough? It's really about what are you going to do with the time that you have. It's all about how you spend the time as opposed to how much time you have. So let's see who else in the house. We've got, okay, Jason. When you see Marvin come with a notebook, yes, Jason. This is what I always say. When you see me, when you see Marvin, come with a notebook and always come with a pen. Because you know when I turn up, there's always going to be something for you to take down. So never miss a life. I'm so excited. Good stuff, Jason. Jason, do you know what? You just made my day. I just like to see people that remember some fundamental things in life. Fundamental things in life. Ola, how are you doing today? Ola, you're so good to have you on. Alexandra Tan. Oh, man, I'm so excited. I cannot wait. Man like Umar, the boss, my boy. That's my partner, my guy, my ace, my business partner, everything, you name it. Umar is in the house. We've been working on so many good things for all of you. And one of the biggest excitements is actually doing these lives with yourselves. How many of you have been enjoying the lives so far? Because we've had a lovely Georgina that's been on here. Such great energy, amazing sessions. She's been giving everything. So just give a shout to Georgina, to the whole Prayer Shortcuts team. Man like Uma working behind the scenes every single day to bring you the best question bank, the best structure, the best website, the best course, always working to make sure that you have an amazing experience. So I'm quite, and today I promise all of you, I will continue to make sure that you have a great session tonight. Wednesday night isn't complete without Marvin. Yes, you know Alexandra Tan. Wednesday night is not complete without Marvin. And guess what? It's even more complete when I have you on here. So guess what? Wednesday night is complete when there's all of us together. When it's all of us together, then the night is complete. So how many of you in here are doing the exam in June? We've had the lovely Suk Jevin in the house. He's doing the exam in November. Suk Jevin, we've got your back, right? Yeah, we have your back, Suk Jevin. Yes, we have your back. So who else is doing this exam in June? Who is doing the exam in June? We've got, let's say we've got Alexandra. George Simo is ready to start. Let's start, Marvin. George is ready to smash this question. So what I always do, rather than come on here and just give you questions, you know what, you get the standard stuff that everybody seems to do. Question, answer, question, answer. Hey, this is the question. That's 1 minute. Here is the answer. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to teach you guys things. I'm going to teach you. So this is a session where I teach you how to answer questions. It's not just, you either know this or you don't. Memory. This is what I'm going to give you a tool so that when you walk away from the session, any question that you have, it doesn't matter. Any mock paper, GPhC exam, any sort of clinical question, you have a formula that you're able to apply at any time to produce incredible results, basically get the answer correct. How many of you would like me to share with you my secret formula to help you answer any GPhC clinical question effectively? If that's you, please type a 1 in the comment section if you want me to share with you my secret. It's like a secret sauce. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger. So if you like that, I'm using a different, I'm going to be jumping between two screens. So I may not see your comments sometimes. I have to come back and I have to look at them. So if I don't reply to your comment, I'm not ignoring you. It's just because I'm moving between two screens. So great stuff. Let's do this together. So here's what we have for you today. Let me make sure you can all see my slides. I'm going to make that a bit bigger and we will go straight in. So what have I got? What have I got? Let me change that. Let me get the other slide. This takes forever, doesn't it? 1 second. What has happened to my slides? Okay, let me make that smaller. I just want to make sure you can see the screen. Are all of you on the same slide as me? It says GPhC exam revision questions and answers. If you can see that, please type 2. And I'll move to the next slide, which says type a yes if you are ready for a great evening. If you could all see this slide, if we are all on the same slide and you're ready to have a great evening tonight, please type a yes. Type a yes. Let's do this. I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. I've got the previous shortcuts top on. This means it's going to be great. This means it's going to be a great evening. Okay, let's go. I've got lots of yeses, so we are all on the same page. Here's what I'm going to show you. How many of you struggle with clinical questions? How many of you struggle to answer clinical questions? Perhaps sometimes you've read the stuff, you've gone through your cardiovascular system, you've gone through the infections, you've gone through the GI system, but when it comes to questions, you still struggle. If that's you, please type on me, because that's what today's session is all about. Today's session is about giving you a tool that can help you. So regardless of whatever clinical question you do, there's a structure to this madness. Okay, there is a strategy, there is a structure. So what I want you guys to take away from here is today, when you walk away, you don't just answer clinical questions randomly. You use a formula. Okay, this is exactly what I want you guys to get away from today. The one thing I want you to change today is that whenever you see a clinical question, you don't just answer them randomly or try to think, you use a formula. And that's a formula I'm going to give you. And regardless of the question, it's going to be from here. So let me give you guys, have you got our pens and papers, notes? Have you guys got your notepads, your pens, your papers, your pencils? Please type a yes if you do. Please type a yes, because this is where it all begins. I'm going to start dishing out these nuggets. You don't get this anywhere else, only here. So let's go straight in. Now, I'm going to give you guys the secret formula. That's all we're going to cover today. And then I'm going to do questions with you to show you how to apply the formula. Right? No point me giving you something and telling you something without showing you how to use it. All right, so I'm going to give you the formula and I'm going to also show you how to use it. So here is the thing. Can you guys all see the slide? So when it comes to what we call your GPhC questions, which we're going to have a session, I'm going to show you guys the different type of GPhC questions you're going to get. I'm not just talking about the basic SBA questions and the basic extended matching type questions. What I'm talking about are the type of questions the GPhC is going to give you in terms of what type of answers they expect. So I have put together 12 main areas where they tend to ask you these questions from. So what we're doing today is we're literally breaking down all the type of GPhC questions you can have. They're all going to be around here when it comes to clinical. So here's what I've got. So the first one is priority keywords. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here, but we're going to have a session where I can go through this with you deeply. So there are 12 key areas. Anytime you see a GPhC question, this simply means the question they're going to be testing you on will be actually one of these things, majority of the time. So either be something to do with a priority, choosing, and the way you identify priority questions, they're going to have certain keywords such as most likely, most suitable, most appropriate. But you're going to have most. That tells you the next point, number 2. The reason why this is so important is in your GPhC exam, you're going to have correct answers and plausible answers. It's so important that you know the difference. So in your exam, you always have one correct answer for that exam, but then you could have a plausible answer. So plausible answer simply means an answer which in practice is correct. It is okay. But here's the thing, it is not the first line option, or it is not the most appropriate action. And in your exam, and this is why you have to be very careful, because there will be things that you see in your pharmacy that you practice, your GPs do this, your pharmacists do these things, different practices. But when you come to the exam, if you put that down, you get the answer wrong. I'll give you an example. So patient comes to your pharmacy, the patient has got a swollen leg. Patient's got a swollen leg. Oh, let's not say swollen leg. Let's say patient comes to your pharmacy and the patient has got a headache. His headache, he's had his headache for a few days, his head is really aching. It's like, it's been a few days, you've gone through your questions, blah, blah, blah. You just decide, you know what, I think it's best you go see your doctor. You actually refer them to the GP, or you refer them to out of hours. It is plausible because you've not hurt the patient, you actually protected the patient by referring the patient to the GP. But perhaps the most appropriate action wasn't to refer that patient to the GP or to out of hours. The most appropriate action was for you to sell that patient a painkiller, right? So in your exam, they're going to be looking for the most appropriate answer. And this is the reason why when students answer questions, you have 5 options, A, B, C, D, E. Most people are able to eliminate about 3 options, and then they are sort of stuck between 2. How many of you experienced that type of me, where once you're answering questions, you know, yeah, A is definitely wrong, B is definitely not an option, 3 is definitely wrong, but oh my God, I'm stuck between these last 2. They both look so similar. I can't even make out the difference between, and that's where I struggle. If that's you, type of me. So this is what this is going to help you do. It's going to show you exactly how to choose when you're stuck between those 2 answers, because one is the correct answer and the other is a plausible answer. And you're going to have that in your GPhC exam. Another thing is questions will be based on things testing about comorbidities. So patients that have other conditions as well. That's where the question could be. Another area the questions could be are the drugs that are in that question. So you're going to have a scenario. You're going to have a scenario. In fact, every question has a scenario, has a question, has answers. So in that scenario, you could potentially have certain drugs, and they're actually testing you on those drugs in the question. The next thing, number 5, is issues or presenting symptoms. It could be a question about symptoms that a patient is experiencing or certain issues that the patient has. And the question is testing you to see whether you could recognize those symptoms and whether you know how to address them. So it's all about symptoms, presenting symptoms, issues. Another area is you get situations where they give you things based on test results. So when I talk about test results, you're looking at things like perhaps your electrolytes, your blood pressures, cholesterol results, but some sort of test results from diagnostic tests, from diagnostic tools. So you have questions, and in the question, the patient has got certain blood results, and they've put that in the question for you. Another one, which is a big one, is it could be testing you on a question to do with allergies. So a patient, blah, 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 is allergic to penicillin, and the patient has got, has got mastitis. What is the best option in terms of antibiotics for that patient? So a question on allergies. Then we have number 8, and I could go into so much detail with these things. I'm just giving you guys the tip of the iceberg. All of you on the combo course, you know we're going to go into more detail. And those of you in the private as well, go into more detail. But then we have keywords. And keywords are a big one. Keywords are a very, very big one. And we're going to do that with examples, because it's always good that if I tell you something, you'll see things better when you have an example. So I'm going to show you examples after this. But I just wanted to see this list. Keywords are certain words in questions that determine your answer. And the GPhC always has certain keywords. So you need to watch out for keywords and questions, and they give you a clue. Let me give you a keywords, ladies and gents, just make it easy. An example, I'm talking about digoxin. When you see there are many drugs out there that have very similar side effects. So if I give you a drug and I talk about nausea and vomiting, you might come up with many drugs. But if I give you a list of drugs and these drugs cause nausea and vomiting, but one of those drugs is digoxin, and I put in the question, the patient also with nausea and vomiting has yellow vision, all of a sudden, the word yellow becomes a keyword. Because straight away you think, oh, that's digoxin. So the keyword has literally helped you identify the correct answer out of the others that cause the same side effect. If that's making sense, please type R1. This is deep stuff, ladies and gents. I'm giving you guys golden nuggets. This is deep. I'm actually doing a session. We're doing a session with the universities. We're invited to King's University in about 2 weeks' time. Got quite a number of universities that we do sessions with. And one of the sessions that we're doing is exactly this. It's exactly understanding how to answer these GPhC questions. It's what I call critical thinking. So I want to make sure you understand this. So you have keywords, and we're going to practice keywords because there are certain keywords that the GPhC likes using, which you have to know. The next thing is number 9, abstracts and pictures. We tend to look at all questions, many of the questions. You will have a question with an abstract, your SPC type questions, or you have questions with pictures. With pictures, they're very common when you talk about rashes. That's when you see loads of pictures, conjunctivitis. And so you see those picture questions mostly when you're dealing especially with infections chapter. A lot recognizing your rashes, recognizing all those childhood infections, those minor ailments, those impetigos, right? So these are pictures, and generally you always get at least 1 or 2 or 3 pictures in every single exam. Then number 10 is the subject. And when I talk about the subject, we're talking about, is it a pregnant lady? Is the question about a child? Is this question about an elderly patient? Is this question about a patient that has got cancer? Right? So there is got to, you have to understand the different things that apply to different subjects. So I think the most common ones are obviously children, pregnant ladies, and the elderly, right? Children, pregnant ladies, and the elderly. So very important, every question you need to know whether this subject, and also ethnicity. So is it Black African? That's going to affect your answer compared to if it was Caucasian. So there is going to be something with certain questions that are based on that specific subject. Then you've got what we call distractors. And distractors are exactly what they are. Distractors. They have nothing to do with the question. They have nothing to do with your answer. But just chucked in there just to hit you off guard. They're just in there. And some of you have that. You see those questions where you go, oh, they've actually put this value down about this, but I don't know. I don't even need it. Especially in calculations. You go, oh, we don't even need this stuff. So the GPhC does that. It does put in distractors in a question that they're just on there, but they don't really have anything to do with the answer. And you need to know your distractors. You need to know those things that are in the questions that you don't really need. They're just in there to bulk the question up, to create that scenario or to give the scenario more meaning. And then finally, number 12 is other. And other simply means other, right? Any other thing that'll be put into that question that will help you with critical thinking. In this scenario, when I talk about other, I'm generally looking mainly at things like, again, diagnostic test results or anything that is not in this list. But please, this list is magical. It is one thing that if you learn this stuff, no question is going to surprise you. And you just have that confidence to answer many of the GPhC questions. So how many of you look at that list now and think, gosh, okay, that's quite a lot of stuff. Type of 1, if you're looking at that now and say, wow, that's a lot of stuff, Marvin. Type of 1. So this is how we're talking about critical thinking and analysis. I want to help you how you could analyze questions, how you could analyze scenarios, and then you answer the question. Because previously, the GPhC exam has changed quite a lot compared to when I did it. You see, when I did the exam, it was all about recall. The questions were they were more straightforward. It was more, this is the question, memorize and you have the answer. The person who was able to memorize the best will do well in the exam. Memory, memory, memory. But things have changed. Now you have a lot of questions that require critical thinking, they require analysis, this sort of situational judgment type of questions. So you need to apply more with this sort of questions to answer them, apart from just memorizing the BNF. So what I'm going to do for you is, these are the main key things. The secret sauce, Georgina, I'm giving it all out. I'm giving it all out. All the secret sauces to you guys right now. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take all of this. Many of you put one. This looks like it's a lot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm going to help you remember all of these using a mnemonic. How many of you are going to like that? If you're going to like that, type me. And so today I'm going to give you a tool. It's going to take some time to get used to it. Not a lot of time. Most of you are already doing it. You're doing it already. But now I'm giving you more structure behind your work. And then what you're going to do from now on is, the more you practice using this, it becomes second nature. It becomes automatic. And that's what I want. That's the level I want to get you to. Once you know this stuff, it becomes automatic. So here's what I'm going to show you. And then we're going to practice questions. And then you see how you use it. And you see how well you become. You really become really good. So here's a mnemonic I have for you. This is a summary of everything I gave you. Right? The best way to answer questions is to remember this stuff. So we've got drugs, issues or interactions, side effects or symptoms, conditions, other, guidelines, priority, safety. And to make it a lot easy, I use this. It's called, if you look on there, D for DISCO. 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 Makes it easy now. Because all right, Marvin, well, all right. Disco. And you've got GPS. Or I'd say GPs, right? GPS, disco. Right? Just think about disco GPs if you want, or GPs disco. Right? Easy to remember, disco. Everyone's gonna remember. Is everyone gonna remember a disco? Is that easy to remember? Please type yes. If you find that easy, disco, I can remember disco. It is easy, Marvin. Please type yes. So I'm going to show you how to use disco. All you have to do today is remember GPS disco. All right, just remember disco, GPS, or GPS disco. And then now what we're going to do, this is the magic formula. This is the magic formula. This is what you want to use as a tool that you want to use whenever you have a clinical question. And even in the pharmacy, and even you're working, apply this to any scenario, any question. Someone walks into your pharmacy, walking patients. Apply this in order to be able to analyze the problem and provide a solution. So can everyone type in, before I go on, type in GPS disco or disco GPS. Just remember, however you find it easy, you could either go disco GPS or you just put GPS disco. Please type this in before we move forward. Now I says it's easy, but it's going to make me laugh. And that's what it's all about. The things that make you laugh stay longer in your memory. Right? Funny things. You remember funny things. You don't remember boring things. You don't remember that stuff. You remember the funny things. So GPS disco, right? So I've got this disco GPS. Is interesting. Some people prefer disco GPS. Others prefer GPS disco. Disco, DISCO, brilliant, fantastic. We are on the same wavelength. That is the tool. So the question is, how do we use it? How do you use it to answer questions? Right. Are you ready for some clinical questions? Who is ready? Type of me. And we're going to apply this formula. We're going to apply GPS disco or disco GPS DISCO. DISCO. Yes. Let's go, ladies and gents. Remember this formula. This is going to change everything for you from today. Send this link. By the way, hit the like button. I'm not going to move forward until you hit the like. If you love what you're seeing and you're ready to have fun tonight, please hit the like button. It's going to help me. It's going to help Previous Shortcut so that we reach out to more students. So all you can do to help me, please, today is simply hit the like button, and that will go a long way. So hit that like button. Let's start questions. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to 2 minutes, and we're going to do this question together. All right, I'll just get your answers, and then we can do these questions together. And then we're going to use GPS Disco to answer questions. This is how you answer questions for your exam. Now, before we go any further, I need to make a little disclosure. These questions which you're about to do are GPhC style questions. However, I have given them an added difficulty. I don't want you to think that all the questions are going to be like this. These ones are slightly harder. They're not hard, but they're just got an added difficulty because I want you to use this formula for at least difficult questions. Okay, so please don't look at this question and think, oh my God, all questions are going to be like this. No, definitely not. If that was the case, then you wouldn't always have more than 70% of students passing the June exam since 2011. The reason why the percentage is always above 70% is because you have a higher chance of passing the exam than failing the exam. All of you here have a higher chance of passing this exam in June than failing the exam because statistics show that you've always had above 70% pass rate in the June exam. So let's just leave that. That's for another day. We're going to have a motivational session. I'm going to help you with that one. But now let's do this. Question number 1. Let me bring my timer on. I'm going to give you about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's not about how quick you answer. It's more about understanding the process of using GPS Disco. So question number 1, let me try to take my video off. Okay, so let's see your answers. Let's see those answers, ladies and gents. Let's see those answers. Let's put your answer down. If you can answer, please put it in. If you found that easy, put your answer down. If you found it difficult, just let me know. Just put your answer. If you didn't have a clue, just put a 0. If you think, wow, I don't know, Marvin, I really don't know, put a 0. And then we could go through the answer together using the formula, show you how to use this stuff. So in order to be able to use this formula effectively, it helps you to learn the key things that the GPhC wants you to know. And that's why I'm giving you a good structure so that you learn. All right. So let's do this together using our formula, GPS Disco. Right. Let's make sure you guys can still see this. So the first thing we do when you have a GPhC question, especially your single best answered question, which is majority of the questions anyway, you're going to have a scenario, which is always the top. You're going to have a scenario on there. You're going to have a question, and then you're going to have 5 options. That's the structure of an SBA single best answered question. So what you need to do is you need to use the formula. Now, the good thing about this formula is they're going to be testing you on one of these or 2 of these, but it's normally not all of them. So that's the good news. The good news is you don't have to. The questions will be on everything. It might just be 1 or 2. So we're going to start off with the scenario. That's where you want to start off with every question. Start with the scenario. So we're going to look at drugs. The first question, anytime you have a question, a scenario question, first thing you want to do is highlight the drugs that are in that question. So what drugs are in the scenario? Any drugs you can see, type 1 if there's any drug. If there's no drug in the scenario, type 0. How many drugs can you see in just the scenario? Type 0 if there's no drug, type 1 if there's 2 drugs you can see in the scenario. So I'm getting 1. Okay, so we start with drugs and we look at all the drugs that we have, right? So you just look for the drugs. So a 70-year-old lady was recently diagnosed with a blood disorder. Can't see any drugs there. Uncomplicated. I cannot see any drugs. 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 I can't see any drug at all in the scenario. See conditions, but no drug. So the drugs are here, right? So that's the first part. You're looking for drugs, no drugs. Next thing is you look for DISCO, I, for any issues or any interactions. Right, so the only way you know about the issues or interactions, if we're going to look at other examples, you may have 2 drugs on there and it will help you pick an issue and interaction straight away. So when I look at this, if you cannot find any issues there straight away, then perhaps it's not about 2 drugs interacting. It might be something else. Right, so we look for side effects, any side effects in the questions, any symptoms. So just go, when you do this, it becomes so automatic. When I do this now, I go straight away, I mix them up and I just go, all right, let's see. What's the subject, right? I just go, fine, let's look at it. Ezia, let's look at the subject. Who is the person we're looking at the subject? It's a 70-year-old lady. The first thing I'm thinking is an elderly patient. I'm looking for, is an elderly patient? Am I looking for, is there a child? Is there anything about that patient that makes them vulnerable? In this case, we have an elderly patient. Then we go through any sort of issues, interactions. Can anyone see any issues straight away? To highlight the issues. Then we go down to any conditions. So if I go to conditions, I'm going to just highlight them. I just think, oh, is there any conditions? You don't even need to think so much about it. You're just highlighting discos. Just do that at the start of every question. Just go conditions, and I'm going to circle this because I can see COPD, right? I can see blood disorder. Ladies diagnosed with blood disorder, suffering from uncomplicated urinary tract infection. That's another condition. I'll just put that down. Another thing as well, patients are allergic to penicillin. So that could be an issue there. Penicillin's any other condition. Can't see anything else. All right, great. So we've got our conditions sorted. Side effects, can't see much of side effects there. Issues. So now we move to G. What G stands for is guidelines. So majority of the questions you're going to have, like every single condition out there, there's a guideline. That's why it's so important. You need to know your heart failure guidelines, your diabetes guidelines, your hypertension guidelines. All of these guidelines, you need to know them because they're going to test you on your guidelines. They'll ask you questions based on your recent guidelines. So once you've done your DISCO, you look for conditions. We've highlighted the conditions, which is your C. O is for others, but mainly results. So if you had any results like blood results or anything, then that's O. Can't see any results. So I've just circled this, and then you see exactly what they're trying to test you on. So the next thing is G, and G is for guidelines. So they're trying to ask you which of these is used for a lower urinary tract infection. All these drugs, looking at them, are used for urinary tract infection. But this is where we need to go into our guidelines, which is G. So according to your guidelines, which of these drugs is the first line? The most, remember the keyword, which one is the most appropriate? So this is where you need to have a bit of knowledge of the guidelines. So with your guidelines, the first line for UTIs are these two. It could either or. It could be nitrofurantoin or trimethoprim. This is your first line options, either of these. So we're going to go to this once because we believe this is the first line. But we also have to look out for any sort of side effects or any sort of issues, interactions or anything. Can anyone give us a reason why it's not going to be nitrofurantoin? Can anyone type in the comments why it's not going to be nitro? So if you look on there, it's not going to be nitro because this patient has got COPD and a deteriorating lung function. Anyone that's got COPD or some sort of lung function deterioration, we don't give them nitrofurantoin. So what we've done now is we've looked at this priority. The priority, according to your guidelines, is nitrofurantoin and trimethoprim. But we also have to look for that safety. Is it safe to give them nitro? And that's where you come back to that scenario and see if there's anything there. So in this case, we can't because of COPD. So next one we have is trimethoprim. Let's use trimethoprim. So if we cannot give nitro, we should be able to give trimethoprim. Unfortunately, again, safety, GPS, S for safety, we cannot give trimethoprim because the patient's got blood disorder. So that straight away rules these two out. So we're left with 1, 2, 3. So the answer could either be C, or the answer could be D, or it could be E. But how do we know which is going to be which? Again, it's finishing with your GPS. So you're looking at priorities, you're looking at safety. We've done the priority once, we cannot give them because of these safety issues. Then we have fosfomycin. Could we give this? Potentially, maybe. We could find out. Let's look at cephalexin and pivmecillinam, right? So pivmecillinam is a penicillin. And we can see clearly here, the patient is allergic to penicillins. So that rules this one out. So we cannot give this because the patient is allergic to penicillins. So you're left with 2, C or D. Now, most of the times when you cannot give someone penicillin, you cannot give them a cephalosporin as well because of the cross between penicillin and cephalosporins. Because of that, you don't give cephalexins or cephalosporins to anyone that has an allergy to penicillins. Right? What is it? I think it's about 0.5 to 6%, something like that. I can't remember exactly. 0.5 to 6%. Chance that this patient will also have an allergic reaction if they were allergic to penicillins. So because of that, we're going to have to take this one out because the patient is allergic to penicillins. There could be a cross allergy there. That means we're left with only one answer. This answer C becomes our correct answer. It's C. So the correct answer for this is C, and that's using GPS Disco. So again, I have to stress that I've made this question difficult. Additionally, most of the time, the GPS will probably just give you 2 steps. They'll probably only write perhaps COPD, and they wouldn't have blood disorder. And you know, all right, it's trimethoprim. Or it could be the other way around. They could just have only blood disorder. They're not going to have anything about COPD, and then you're going to go nitrofurantoin. But I've taken it down that level and added extra levels because I want you to understand and know how to use this formula. So does that make sense? That makes sense. Type of 1, and we're going to go into the next question, and we will continue to use GPS Disco. But once you have GPS Disco, it's really easy because it helps you break questions down. So let's look at the next question together. So the next question is this question. I'll give you guys about a minute for this question. That's fine, guys. What your answers? You can put your answer down. It's okay. Let me know what you think. What answer did you get? What answer did you get for that question? What answer did you get? So let's do that together using our formula. Let's do that together. So answers, you guys, I'm getting A's, I'm getting B's. Sorry if I went so quickly. Hey, by the way, I'm just doing that because I'm trying to go through showing you the technique. But please, by all means, you probably have more time to do this question in an exam situation. All right. So I'm just doing it a bit quicker. Don't feel, oh my God, Marvin is stopped. Oh, I'm not finished reading. It's so long. It's okay. We'll do it together. We'll do it together. So let's look at this question. We're going to use our formula straight away. And that's what you want to do. The first thing I'm going to say is D. We're going to look for any sort of drugs in there, right? Our disco, and we can see we've got Ramipur. And this is what's so good about this formula is before you even start thinking about stuff, you can just start highlighting already in your exam quickly. Okay, I've got C there, so you don't miss anything out. So we've got this drug, Ramipur, we've got atenolol, that's another one. Because if you miss any of those things in the exam, you get it wrong. And that's how students get things wrong, because under pressure, you may not see something. That's why it's good to underline them. And also taking warfarin, I can see warfarin is on there. So in terms of my drugs, I already have, and no other drugs, I have Ramipur, atenolol, clotrimazole, and warfarin. Next thing you need to do, once you've highlighted these in your scenarios, is look at those drugs straight away and start looking to see if you can see any interaction. Because that's where the potential question could be in this whole question, right? They could be trying to find out whether you recognize an interaction. Does anyone recognize any interaction? Is there anything? If there is, that's okay. Just remember that. So once you've highlighted your drugs, next thing is any issues or interactions. So issues are what is this patient suffering from? So any issues, they've got fungal infection, no allergies. So in terms of the condition, I'm going to say fungal infection. Okay, fungal infection on her foot, that's a C, her condition. It's not an elderly patient, not a child. There's nothing specific about ethnicity. So then perhaps when you see that, then you know they're probably not testing you on this. If they specify perhaps the patient was a Black African or something like that, then you know they're probably testing you on something to do with ethnicity. In this case, normal patient. Okay. So I've highlighted my drugs. I'm looking out for those issues. And in this case, we're probably looking at an interaction question. So once you've done that, the next thing we need to look at is GPS. We've done disco. We need to look at GPS. There's no blood result or anything for other. So we're going to go to your guidelines, your priority, and safety. Okay, guidelines, priority, and safety. So when we look at the guidelines, the question is what this patient takes. So 50-year-old lady visits your pharmacy and she wants to buy clotrimazole. She's on blood pressure tablets. She's got fungal foot infection. She also takes warfarin. She has no known allergies and does not take any other medication. She has no other medical condition. So what would be the most, again, keyword, the most, which means there may be plausible options, but they're looking for the correct option, right? So we do what we call process of elimination, and then you use your GPS disco. So process of elimination is anytime you get questions, there were always going to be some questions in there that have enough, you could spot straight away. You always want to come down to a point where you're left with about 2 options, and then you continue to use your GPS. Right? So sometimes you don't even need to go to GPS. You can see straight away, I can cross this off. So the process of elimination is, you just look at those options now. It says, sell the patient clotrimazole as it doesn't interact with warfarin, but advise them to monitor INR. Question mark, we could look at that. It could be correct. Provide advice and refer her to the GP for a prescription. Could be correct. Don't see anything wrong with the safety. It looks okay. Sell an alternative antifungal as clotrimazole increases warfarin concentration. Does it? Does it increase? That's a no. I know this because that's a no. It doesn't increase concentration. Other antifungals do, but not clotrimazole. If we had like fluconazole or miconazole, yes, right? But not clotrimazole. Provide lifestyle advice and advise her to check her INR first. That sounds very plausible. Lifestyle advice, check your INR, but it doesn't treat the infection. So in case of safety, to send this patient away with nothing to deal with the problem, it doesn't sound like the most correct thing to do. right? In practice, literally, I'll give you nothing. Just eat healthy, drink enough water, eat healthy, exercise, and that's it. And then check your INR. For a lady that's got fungal infection, I'm going to cross that off straight away. The last one, advise her that fungal infections are self-limiting and will resolve on their own without any medication. Is that really true? So that again is straight fungal infections, self-limiting. No. Majority of the time, that's why we'll have an antifungal to treat this. So I'm going to cross that out because these three straight away process of elimination. And in your exam, you always have some options that you'll always be straight away eliminate them so that there's not much on the page for you. So that means we're left with these two. And that's where we have to continue to use our GPS. So the answer will either be sell the clotrimazole as it doesn't interact with the warfarin, but advise the patient to monitor INR, or the correct answer will be provide advice only and then refer this patient to the GP. And you guys are going to get questions like this. And this is where many students struggle. Questions that require what to do next, refer or treat, refer or treat. Do you treat them in the pharmacy or do you refer them to the GP? Do you refer or do you treat? So this is the area which the GPhC consistently every single year always mentions in the feedback that this is the area where students struggle the most. So believe me, guys, you will be getting these questions coming up in your exam in June. So do we treat them or do we refer them? So looking at safety and looking at what's within your scope of practice, referring this patient to the GP doesn't really make sense. Is it plausible? Yes. It's a plausible option. Nothing wrong with this. It's not going to kill them. Safe. But in terms of what you can do within your scope of practice, there is no interaction between clotrimazole and warfarin. Absolutely no interaction. So in that case, there is nothing wrong with you selling this patient clotrimazole for her fungal foot infection. Nothing wrong with that. If you send this patient to the doctor, GP, and the GP is going to ask you, why did you refer this patient to me? So in that case, the most appropriate option is to sell the clotrimazole because there's no interaction with warfarin, and continue to advise that patient to monitor her INR. No point referring her to the GP. This will be a complete waste of the GP's time. Especially now with pharmacy first, they'll probably test us even more with this type of questions. Okay, so does that make sense? Type of one, type of one, type of one. So that's how we go through. Do your process of elimination, do your GPS disco or disco GPS. It's going to help you so much. We're going to do that for another question. Let's try this one. Sorry, guys, I just noticed you couldn't hear me. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was muted. Oh no! Sorry about that. I was literally answering the question. Okay, let me go back again. Sorry, I just noticed that. Because I'm switching between screens, I couldn't even see your comments. So what I was saying is we have the conditions, angina, and conditions. So I was going through disco. So we have the drugs. In the scenario was allopurinol, which I've circled. Then we said the next thing was eye issues or interactions. I cannot see any sort of issues there for now. Then the next thing was, do we have any sort of conditions? And the conditions are, we had unstable angina, which is a condition, hypertension, which is another condition. Then I went to the next thing, which was other. And I mentioned that with other, we're looking at other things, like especially with your results, blood results, right? So in this case, we have other. So we've got sodium, potassium, blood pressure. So you have to look at the blood results. So what I was saying is, with your electrolytes, most of the time, they're going to give you those results, those ranges. But it's important that you know some of them. And potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, I would say those are the most important that you need to learn by heart. Especially potassium and sodium. Learn potassium and sodium by heart. So my next question was, what is the range for sodium? What is the range for sodium? I like how you guys had give me one, Marvin, and it was like, can't hear you, and I didn't know. And here am I, rumbling on, going through explaining things, and then looking out like, oh my gosh, no one even heard what I said. How embarrassing. But yes, that's good. Good fun. Good fun. So does anyone know what the range is for sodium? Please learn your ranges for these ones especially. Okay, sodium, potassium, right? So potassium, we're looking about 3.5 to 5.5. So range for potassium. Sodium, I'll say about 137 to 142, right? For potassium, I'll say about 1 for sodium, so about 137, around that range. It's about 142. Someone says 136 to 145, but that sort of range, okay? So great stuff. Now, looking at the question, straight away we could see sodium is low. This could either be a distractor in your question, where it has nothing to do with the question, or it could be necessary to answer the question, right? So you're going to highlight that because you looked at others, you've not missed anything. In this case, 119 as low, because we're looking at least 136. Right? So this one, so we know it's got low sodium. Potassium is 3.5 to about 5.5, 7.5 as high. So we've got high potassium and low sodium. Blood pressure high as well. So we have results that are out of the normal range. So according to the NICE guidelines, again, we're going to GPS now. We looked at DISCO, you have GPSO guidelines, right? The G for guidelines. According to the NICE guidelines, which of these is the most appropriate to manage hypertension? And this is one that comes out quite a lot in your GPhC exam, to do with your hypertension guidelines. Again, this question has an added difficulty to it. So when we look at these things, because I've highlighted this, I know I have to look out for these, because these are where the questions generally will come from. So the first thing I look at is amlodipine. So according to your guidelines, the first line for someone that is more than 55 years old is generally a calcium channel blocker. So this patient's first line, we should give this patient, according to your guidelines, according to first priority, which you need to know, should be a CCB. So anyone that's put A, I understand why you put A, but I have a problem with A. Can anyone spot a problem with A? Why can we not give this patient amlodipine? So I have given this an added difficulty, because in your exam, I don't think most people know this, and most of you probably focus more on, like, say, heart failure, and you cannot give calcium channel blockers to patients that have got heart failure, but you can give amlodipine. But one of the things you cannot do, a sort of contraindication, is unstable angina with amlodipine, right? Like calcium channel blockers, you cannot give the calcium channel blockers to a patient that has got unstable angina. So according to your guidelines, it should be CCB. But in this specific scenario, because this patient has got unstable angina, we have to eliminate this. We cannot give them this, which would have been our first line. So in your exam, most of the time, I'm hoping it will be easy and straightforward. It's not even going to have unstable angina. Then all of you are going to be correct, because you're just going to go to A and it will be done. That's probably majority of self questions you're going to get. So we've eliminated this. So what's our next line? So if we think about the guidelines, you have a CCB. What's the next option? If you cannot give them a calcium channel blocker, what do you give them? Thank you, Saliba, for putting unstable angina. Well done. Someone says I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Man, Igma, bye, bro. Man, what you say, boy? Is it fine? Can you guys hear me? Am I frozen? But thanks for letting me know. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I just want to be talking to myself. Can you guys hear me, or am I still frozen? Okay, I think you can hear me because someone actually put an answer down, which is ACE inhibitors. So according to the guideline, it is not just ACE inhibitors. It could be an ACE inhibitor or a thiazide-like diuretic. Please don't get that wrong. It could be either or. So if you look at the guidelines, it says either. It says an ACE or a thiazide-like diuretic. So in that case, we're going to start thinking, okay, let's go. Someone says a thiazide, right? So we'll go thiazide. So let's look at what we could do. So we're looking at ACE or thiazide, which is our priority. That's the next one. So where do we have a thiazide? We've got one here. We've got thiazide diuretic. Although it's thiazide-like, that's what it's meant to be, like your clotalidones and your indapamides. But we've got a thiazide 2.5 is for hypertension. So this should be the one. Or we've got an ACE inhibitor. We've got an ACE inhibitor, or we've got a thiazide diuretic. So which one? So let's look at the thiazide first. Can we give a thiazide diuretic? Now, this could be an option for hypertension, but there is something in this question. Again, always use, that's why I'm giving you guys a formula. Once you understand how to use this formula, no one is going to trap you. The GPhC can't trap you. You know where everything is. So this patient is on allopurinol. All right, and if it's on allopurinol, what condition has this patient got? I think someone else put the answer down. Thank you. Ola Usri in the house. So the patient has got gout, contraindicated. So that's why you always have to watch out. They'll either just give you the condition gout, or the GPhC will give you the drug for you to derive it as gout. So they might tell the patient's got gout as a condition, or it could be presented as a drug the patient is taking, so that you derive from that. The same way, like I could give this patient Lantus, or I could put metformin in there. I would expect that you should know that patient's got diabetes. So they could either put the condition or they could put the drug in. So in this case, they put just the drug. So this is going to be contraindicated. At least you need a lot of caution with this. So it's not really the most appropriate. Right? Maybe if you monitor the patient, it could be plausible. As long as you keep an eye on the patient, perhaps. But in this case, it's not. So next thing is an ACE inhibitor, because we said a thiazide or an ACE inhibitor. So we've got ramipril. But we've got a big problem, haven't we? Why can we not give this patient ramipril? Who's got the answer? Someone got anything about ramipril? Can we give this patient ramipril? Should we give this patient ramipril, 10 milligrams ramipril? Yes or no? Thank you, Olivia Said. How are you, Olivia? How are you doing, Olivia? Great stuff. Saba, thank you. Joanne Roberts, Joanne in the house. Great stuff, Joanne. Dan, very good. Great. So hyperkalemia. So because of high potassium, because we know this and we circled it, it makes it easier for us to spot in the exam so we don't miss this out. This is the reason why you need to use this formula. If not, in an exam, you're not gonna see that. You're gonna go, okay, blah, 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 yeah, okay, fine. Oh yeah, calcium channel blockers, yeah. Hypertension, that's right. First line, the patient's more than 55 years old. So the first line is a CCB. I'm not depending. Done. Bush. Next question. But if you use this formula, it will help you relax and pick out the right stuff. So we're now left with two options. We could see straight away, because of this high potassium, we're definitely not going to give them spironolactone, because that's going to make it even worse. So through this process, we've literally eliminated using our disco, this one, and so the correct answer is C, doxazocin, because this is our only option now, is doxazocin. So many of you went for A, but again, using this process of understanding critical thinking, looking at patient safety, looking at the priority, the guidelines, the safest answer in this scenario is doxazocin. Is that clear? Type of two, and we're going to do one last one, and then I'll let you guys go. I'll pose you one last question and I'll let you go. But please use this formula because it's amazing. For some of you, it's the first time you're seeing it, but please watch this video again. Learn to use it. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So when I do it by myself, I don't even go through the stages. Like I spot it straight away. It's so quick. I'm able to spot things very quick. The only thing that you have to do is probably learn your guidelines a bit more because of some things that you need to have some knowledge on certain things, and it's easy to use the formula. But guys, please let me remind you, and I'm going to say this 2 million times today, that I've made these questions a bit harder. Okay, so don't look at this question and think, oh my gosh, GPhC questions, I'm going to die. Majority of the times they're a lot easier than this. It's similar, but less steps to go through. So it might just be 1 or 2 steps you go, but I'm taking you all the way to about the 4th option. So great stuff. Let's try this question, ladies and gents. Try this question. Let's see how you perform. So what did you guys go for? Sorry about that. Oh gosh, I was mute again. Terrible, 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 terrible. I'm not used to going back and forth. Okay, great. Sorry for being mute, but yes, what I was just showing that we've covered all the drugs. Drugs, there were two drugs, Lantus and Novorapid. We've looked at the issues. We looked at any issues. Symptoms. What are symptoms? So we can see symptoms on there. There's dizziness. That's why I circle that. There is sweat, right? Starting to sweat. And there is shaking slightly in the hands. So in terms of symptoms, we always have to highlight symptoms because you generally have questions relating to those symptoms. So please never miss out your symptoms, right? So we see dizzy, sweat, shake, right? Dizzy, sweat, shake. Those are your symptoms. Then we have conditions, which is the conditions. We have type 1 diabetes. So for our C in this condition, type 1 diabetes. Others normally your results, your blood results. And in this case, we are quite lucky. We've got an other, which is your blood glucose results. So you've got some sort of results, which is 5.3 to 4.5. Patients got hypoglycemia. So we've done this score. We need to move now to GPS. So the next thing will be your guidelines. That will be your guidelines. And that's going to be your next option. So you need to know your hypoglycemic management guidelines, right? Or your diabetes guidelines. So what answer did you guys go for? What did we go for? Jackson, Mike muted. Sorry, I'll kill myself. I can't believe I keep doing that. There we go. Yes, back. Yes, back. Great. I'm going to let you guys enjoy. I've got Liverpool playing. I'm a Liverpool fan, mate. Okay, so that's a bad impression of my Scouse accent. Okay, so Olivia D. So I've got D's and C's, right? So there's a mix of a D and a C, a D and a C, a D and a C. Great. All right, so let's find out. Let's find out using our formula. Interesting. Again, you need to know something about hypoglycemic management. But why don't we just start off, like I said to you, before you even use GPS Disco, use the process of elimination. Whenever you see 5 answers, there's going to be about 2 that you could just cross off straight away. And if you could do that, please do that straight away. So what I'm going to look on here is I'm going to look at administer IM glucagon. Yes, you can for the management. I know you could use that in a management of hypoglycemia. Small carbohydrates, yes, you could do that. Fasting carbohydrates, yes. So A, C, D look plausible. But I would definitely take off B straight away. Process of elimination. Refer urgently. There were no signs for me to refer this patient urgently to a GP. All right, so I'm going to cross that out. And even worse, call 999. No! I wouldn't call 999. That's going to be a waste of NHS funds. Taxpayers' money, you're wasting our money. So there we go. We've eliminated B and C because we think these are definitely one. And you always have that in every exam, okay? So always look for those questions you can just cross out straight away. And that's how you get questions correct without even knowing the question itself. So now we're left with A, C, and D. I'm going to say, looking at that question, IM glucagon. No, it just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound that bad for us to give an IM glucagon to this patient. It doesn't. The patient is still conscious. The patient has actually come into the pharmacy to collect the medication. They are literally just feeling a bit dizzy. So literally just slightly dizzy, slightly, and just shaking slightly. So everything seems to not be that serious to that extent where we start injecting them. So I'm going to cross that off. That leaves us with C or D. Let me look at what your answers were. So most of you had C, okay? And actually, most of you had D. Okay, so let's look at this. Most of you had D. Some of you had C. Recommend this patient takes a small carbohydrate snack. Is this the answer? We don't know. Could D be the answer? Question mark. So this is exactly what I was saying to you guys before. What you're going to notice in the exam, and this is why I really want to help you, is that you will come to situations in the exam where you have a correct answer and a plausible answer. And they're the worst situations to be in. Not every single question. There's some that just have one correct answer and you could tell straight away. but you will have those that have a plausible answer. And that's what's going to get you a little bit stuck. And the only way you could deal with these questions is you need something extra. That is, well, you need to know your guidelines a little bit more. You need to know those guidelines. And when I say knowing the guidelines, you need to know with your guidelines, when do you give a patient that has got hypoglycemia a small carbohydrate snack like bread, like a meal? And when do you give them a fast-acting carbohydrate such as glucogel? When do you do that? So this is understanding your guidelines to be able to answer when you're stuck. Okay, so now the difference is going to be in here. So we've used all of this to eliminate all the other ones. The way we're going to find out this, and that's what the GPhC is going to do, you're always going to have something in here in order for you to distinguish this. So whenever you're stuck between these two, you need to go back in here. Anytime you're doing questions in the two that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really stuck, which is correct and plausible. Because if you did either or, it's not going to be wrong. But in this case, we need to use our guidelines. So what do our guidelines say? According to the guidelines, you only give the patient a fast-acting carbohydrate, such as glucogel, when this value is 4 and below. If the patient's glucose is 4, right, if this was 4, then you give glucogel. If the patient's glucose is above 4, in this case it's 4.5, then a small snack will be advisable, will be the appropriate thing to give them. Now, in practice, there is nothing wrong with giving D. It is plausible, nothing wrong. In fact, that would probably be like, yes, just give glucogel, right? But for this question, in the exam, the correct answer is according to your guidelines. So I'll show you the answer. If you go into your guidelines and you read your guidelines, you see on here, it says it. So you need to know when to give a snack and when to give your carbohydrate, your fast-acting carbohydrate. Where do I have that now? So it's going to be this one. If any patient's concentration less than 4 with or without symptoms, who is conscious and able to swallow, should be treated with a fast-acting carbohydrate by mouth. Fast-acting carbohydrates are this, right? So something like this. So that's normally when it's less than 4. But if you look on here, it says adults, right, with symptoms of hypoglycemia who have a blood glucose concentration greater, this is the key word, is 4. Always look at 4. If the glucose is greater than 4, and obviously they got light symptoms of hypoglycemia, they should be treated with a small carbohydrate snack, such as bread or just a normal meal. So now when you go away and you take this from here today, please learn when you give the different options. And in your exam, if they give you that question, they're trying to see whether you know about this. If it's greater than 4, you give them the small carbohydrate snack. If it's less than 4 and the patient's conscious and swallows, then you give them the fast-acting carbohydrate. So in this case, that's exactly what a patient is. It's dropped from 5.3, but it's 4.5, which is still about 4. We don't really need to give them this. If we gave them this, are we wrong in practice? No, it's plausible. But in the exam, are you going to be wrong? Yes, unfortunately, because they're going to want this one because this is not less than 4. Is that clear, ladies and gents? Please type a 1, type a 1. I think I've gone over an hour. And thank you so much. But we're going to do more of this. I want to do sessions where, how many of you like the session, by the way? Like taking time to explain to you using this. What I really want to do is, again, I want to give you next time, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you just the standard GPhC questions. And when you use the standard GPhC questions with this formula, you're going to see how easy it is for you to get things correct. So this time, although I've used the formula, I've made the questions even harder. I've made them harder. But once you start using this formula for your most common GPhC questions, ladies and gents, there will be no stopping you. No stopping you. You will be so good. So practice it. practice it, use it 1, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. After a while, you wouldn't even use the formula. You're just going to be thinking like I do now. You're just thinking, okay, condition, the symptom, the age of the patient. It just helps you because when you see a question now, you know exactly what to focus on, as opposed to just reading the question and then say to the, oh, can I answer this question? Oh, what are they asking for? Just go in with GPS Disco. Walk in there like you're going for a party. Walk into the GPhC exam like it's a disco, ladies and gents, because this is your time to shine. Walk in there, be confident. You're going into party because you know what's going to happen. You know all those questions in clinical. You've got your GPhC Disco in your pocket. You've got the right tools. You're ready to go. You can hear my voice again and again with my weird, strange accent, me screaming and going, yes, in the exam, and you'll pass. So thank you, ladies and gents. Just to let you guys know, obviously, any of you that's interested in joining our course, right? You got, I think most of you on the course already, but please, if you are interested in joining the Pre Shortcuts program, you could join. We have the website. I've got more questions, by the way. But yeah, just go onto our website. You want to do more questions like this. We've got a question bank of over 1,000 questions. Very, very good. Good questions, good answers. You could enroll on any of our courses. You have access all the way to your exam. You could join the Essential. That's going to take you all the way to the June exam. Or if you're doing an exam in November, you could join the Premium. That's going to go all the way to November. So please just go to the website. On the bottom of this video, there's a link. And you could click on that link. You could chat to us by Messenger. Or you could go to our website and see the courses, join the courses, and be part of the family. So thank you. If you really enjoyed the session tonight, please let me know. How did you guys find the session? Give me some feedback. Also, please hit the like button if you haven't yet. It really, really helps us. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. All I wanted you to do today was learn GPS Disco or Disco GPS. And then what we're going to do, please use this from now on. And then when I do a session next time, it will be questions that are sort of doable, the sort of level, the strength level like in the GPhC. And then I'll get you to use GPhC Disco and you'll see how easy it is and how good you become. I used this with one student last year. The student was struggling with mocks. They're constantly getting about 60% in the mocks that they were trying. And all I did was show them GPhC Disco, showed them how to use GPhC Disco. From then onwards, they consistently had above 70% in the mock exams. They actually went into now the GPhC exam and they scored 110 out of 120. No, it was 109 out of 120 in the clinical exam. So guys, you've got the formula, you've got the secret sauce. It's not what I give you, it's what you do with what I give you. So make it happen. All the best. And thank you all for being here tonight. See you all soon. Bye.